Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
To many, he's Jihadi Jack fighting for ISIS. But to his parents, he's a boy with mental health issues, a boy who's been treated for a compulsive disorder by the NHS. They believe he needs to come home. Tonight, the agony of a family entangled in the troubled complexities and bloody conflicts that are consuming Syria. In their first television interview, the parents of Jack Letts talked to us about the struggle over their son.
Also tonight, Britain doubles its pledge to help Syrian refugees in the Middle East as international donors gather in London. But is it human suffering driving the plans or a desperate attempt to keep them out of Europe? As police in Cologne try to secure the safety of women in this week's carnival, a mother and daughter who were both attacked on New Year's Eve tell of their wait for justice. And more heartbreak on a British beach as yet another huge whale strands itself and is unlikely to survive.
And an emotional return to the stage for Massive Attack, giving us their only television interview for years. Frontman Robert Danaya on why the plight of Syrian refugees is such a big part of the show.
This felt like an opportunity to tell a story which is probably being edited in places it shouldn't be, and it should be just told very directly and naturally.
He's been dubbed Jihadi Jack in the tabloid press and accused of being the first white Briton to join the militant Islamic State fighting on the Syrian front line. But tonight, the parents of 20-year-old Jack Letts have told this programme he's nothing to do with the terrorist organisation. In their first television interview, John and Sally Letts insist their son is only involved in humanitarian work in Syria. And they reveal he suffers from a serious mental health condition, but say when they tried to send him money to help, they were arrested under the Terrorism Act. They've been talking to our Home Affairs correspondent, Darshna Sonia.
A middle-class 20-year-old from Oxford, the son of an organic farmer who converted to Islam and went to Syria. Nicknamed Jihadi Jack by the papers, he's been accused of being the first British white boy to fight for ISIS, an accusation he and his family strongly deny. Tonight, Jack Letts' parents tell us he suffers from a serious mental disability, and yet, when they tried to help him, they were arrested.
My greatest fear is that he won't get out of this alive.
Your child's about to fall off a cliff, and they're holding you back, even though he's crawling forward to the edge, and they won't let you help him.
Jack Letts was known as the class joker, an energetic, inquisitive boy.
Gregarious, funny, talkative.
Much has been made of his family's middle-class credentials. His Canadian father is a leading expert on organic wheat crops. In the past week, details of their lives have been splashed across the news.
It's horrible. You sit there, you're having your breakfast, and you open the paper, and there's your son, who's the murdering rapist. You know, who's apparently got a child and has been fighting for 2 years in a frontline position.
Why did Jack go to Syria, and what exactly is he doing there? He admits he's been to Raqqa, the self-declared capital of ISIS. His accusers point to this picture, taken at the Tabqa Dam, in which he gives the gesture of Shahada, which simply means bearing witness to the oneness of God, but which has been appropriated by some ISIS fighters.
How do you know that your son isn't fighting for ISIS?
We've directly asked him. I know people will say, well, he'll lie to you. We know he won't lie about his religion, because anything to do with his religion, he thinks he'll go straight to hell. So we know that we can count on that. And, you know, a year and a half being a fighter, I think if he was a fighter, Jack's the sort of person who would tell us. And most of the people out there who are fighting, they're quite open about the fact that they're fighting.
Jack himself stresses that he has never been pictured with a weapon, nor with any ISIS symbols, but he's been accused of being a violent extremist. What hasn't been reported is that he suffers from severe OCD, a condition that ended his dream of becoming a doctor.
It started to go downhill fairly quickly. We first started to notice he had some kind of peculiar kind of twitches and sounds he would say. We've not really talked about this very much, obviously. And he was struggling a bit in school more, and he couldn't read as well, and he couldn't focus. That was probably the main thing, he couldn't focus. We also noticed that he started to do a lot of compulsive washing and things, and then we realized that there was something quite serious. It took a while for us to really figure it out, but eventually we did bring him in for an assessment, and they told us they had a very severe mental health disability.
Jack dropped out of sixth form and announced to his atheist parents that he was converting to Islam. One line of inquiry being pursued by the police is whether anyone locally may have played a part in radicalising him. His parents believe the religion helped him cope with his illness.
He was spending more and more time reading the Quran, learning Arabic. He was teaching himself Arabic. He would spend time with his friends who spoke Arabic in the cafes here, because Oxford is obviously a very international place. So he was mixing with people who were quite a lot older than him, so university students. He's still only 17 at this time. So he stopped going to school, really.
I think the Islam gave him a lot of comfort. He was really distraught, I think, and embarrassed, I think, probably because he'd done so well, and all his friends were getting ready for university, and they're all doing well. And I think it gave him a lot of comfort.
But there was nothing at that time that gave you cause for concern or made you think that he had been radicalised?
It sounds naive, but no.
No, well, radicalised. He was really concerned about thousands and thousands of people dying of starvation and being barrel bombed in Syria, and so am I. I mean, if that makes you a radical, I'm a radical.
Jack went to Syria without telling his parents his plans. He insists he's been doing humanitarian work, and his parents point out he left 2 years ago before the rise of ISIS, a time when many young men flocked there to fight the regime of Bashar al-Assad.
If he is doing humanitarian work, could he not just send you video of him or give you details about the charity that he's with?
He has to be very, very careful about anything that he sends us, or anything that he says, because of his own security and the security of the people around him.
His mum showed me messages that Jack has been sending home. They last heard from him around a week ago. In some conversations, he said he was hungry and in need of food, and yet his parents say when they tried to send him money to help and to buy him some new glasses, they were arrested under the Terrorism Act.
So you tried to send your son money for glasses and then you were arrested?
I think it's crazy that we can't send a penny to our ill son, I would say, to help him, because, we'll be seen as supporting terrorism.
It's the worst feeling in the world. You feel completely helpless. I mean, your child's out there, they have no support, they're still reliant on you. He's sending desperate messages to us saying, it's cold, or he doesn't have food, or he can't see, and we know that legally we're not allowed to help him.
The police confirmed a couple had been arrested and bailed on suspicion of sending money to Syria. It's understood they're also investigating a number of online messages allegedly posted by Jack. In a recent online interview, he reportedly described David Cameron as evil and criticised the US-led bombing campaign in Syria.
We obviously had to ask ourselves the question, has he become radicalised? And we've done everything in our power to find out. We've asked the police. They've said that there's no evidence that he's been involved in any kind of radical behaviour. He's quite vocal against what he sees the British government is doing to people in Syria, but then that view is shared by many, many people over here as well.
If you could say anything to Jack, what would you say?
I'd like him to come home.
What are your fears for him?
I think it's probably going to end really badly. I don't want it to end badly. It's my first son.
The parents of Jack Letts talking to Darshna Soni. The Swedish Foreign Minister.